Welcome to Power Your Story,
produced by students at After School Matters with production support from the Creative and Poster Studios.
Enjoy the show.
Hi, it's Andrea Klunder, Program Director for Power Your Story podcast. May 25th commemorates a terrible and sad anniversary for the United States. And that is the murder of George Floyd by police officers in Minneapolis, Minnesota. As a practice of remembrance, we are releasing 2 roundtable conversations our student producers recorded in the wake of the tragedy the year it happened, 2020. Now, it's important to remember the context. This was during the COVID pandemic lockdowns. A divisive president was in the White House that a majority of our students, but not all, felt anguish over. The Black Lives Matter movement had gained visibility and, with it, a lot of controversy. Riots were breaking out across the country, including in Chicago, and major damage was done to property. While at the same time, there were also peaceful demonstrations of anger, outrage, and support for the citizens, families, and communities most impacted by racial violence. We were all on edge, and there was a lot of uncertainty. These conversations captured the raw emotions, ideas, and thoughts of our students in the midst of processing this chaotic time. We hope that you will listen with an open heart, without judgment, and that rather than breaking open old wounds, listening will help you to acknowledge, process, and continue to do the work of healing the discomfort and pain that likely you still feel over this period of time. And also to remember that these issues have not yet been solved. They haven't gone away. There's still a lot of work to do. We definitely encourage you to seek out and support commemorative events and grassroots organizations in your local community and take care of yourself during this time. Here is part 1 of our conversation. Thank you for listening.
Welcome to Power Your Story podcast. My name is Clara Alvarez, and today we are talking about our experiences with Black Lives Matter, protests, and police after the murder of George Floyd. Joining me are Aaliyah, Elvis, Gennaro, D'Angelo, Brandon, and Brooklyn. And we may hear from some of our other student producers as well. So my first question is, when you heard about George Floyd the first time, how did you find out, and how did you feel about it?
I found out through social media. There was actually someone had live streamed it who was there, and it was like a 15-minute video. And like in the video, you could just see the officer kneeling down on his airway for it was like almost 15 minutes. I'm not sure, but it was honestly just really saddening.
Well, in my opinion, I think the media has really portrayed it the wrong way. Like everything, they just say things and then some things might not be true what they're saying because, the media, they say things just to say it and then they think they the judge. But really, to be honest, I think you're supposed to let the officer do their job. Even if they did something wrong, they will get accounted for at some point.
For me, how I found about George Floyd was through the news. So it was pretty much everywhere at the time. I think I was watching the ABC News when it happened, and it was very sad to hear the man just die. And at first, I didn't know what to make out of it, just knowing the police officer that he was kneeling on George Floyd's neck, and things like that is normally you shouldn't do that, and things like that is just I can understand that something happened. I didn't know what to make out of it, but I know that it was very wrong to just see someone just screaming, to just begging them to just stop and things like that, not to mention he was in handcuffs. So, it was unnecessary for him to just kneel on him. So you would have think that somebody would have told him to stop, but unfortunately it didn't happen like that. So things like that, I understand what people are angry about, but it's not really good for them to just take out their anger out on the world. So,
yeah, honestly, I look at it from both perspectives. Seeing it from the George Floyd perspective and how he was treated, obviously the way that things escalated and ended up were not appropriate and were not obviously warranted. But I believe that regardless of that certain situation, about how people just automatically labeled all cops to be evil and all cops to have like this sort of like the old saying they used to say, just because it's like one bad apple out of like the whole bunch, you're gonna blame the whole
Yeah.
bunch. It's not really
Hmm.
how it
It's
works.
not really the whole bunch, and you're right, because like not all police officers are bad, you know.
Because I know that even though there was a group of cops there, one of them should have stopped them. I mean, that just goes to show you that they weren't really the good ones, but I know there are good ones out there, and the fact that people automatically were trying to ostracize all cops and attack them, that wasn't really, in my opinion, the right action to take when they could have taken other measures instead of automatically going to physical violence.
But here's my question: do you label the officers in the video as bad, or you thought they were trying to do good, but it ended up terribly?
In the beginning, I understood where they were coming from because they are risking their lives, and you never know if a person has a weapon or if their lives are going to be at risk. So I understood how they reacted in the beginning, but towards the end, where they purposely put his knee against the man's jaw, like the man's neck, after he was already detained, and there was multiple officers there with him, and he was already cuffed. I don't think that that was a necessary action to take at that certain point. I understand that that job comes with risks, and people want to defend themselves. It's a nature thing. It's not really whether if it's wrong or right. It's just it's your life.
Like the media portraying the officers as bad people like that, that's not a good way to like solve problems. And like in a sense that yeah, police officers, they're fighting for our rights on a daily basis. They're actually trying to protect us from crime. But like when you try to dismantle the police, defund the police, and do all of this stuff, that's not going to help the situation. So this thing about defund the police or whatever, that's not a good idea.
Okay, so I agree with some of your opinions, but about labeling all cops being bad, I mean, we're not labeling all of them. Yeah, of course, there's gonna be good cops and there's gonna be bad cops. But once you decide to be a cop, you're like deciding, okay, I'm gonna be part of this corrupt system. Because when you need them the most, they're not there to solve those problems. But when you don't really need them, they go and take it in a different way, which is why we think of most cops like bad cops.
I definitely agree. I feel like there are going to be good cops and there are going to be bad cops, but those good cops need to be holding bad cops accountable. You can't just allow bad cops to be bad and just be a part of the corrupt system. You need to be trying to fix the corrupt system.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. But the way that I'm saying it is like they're attacking the cops in general when they should be attacking like the deeper issue on how they should address the issue instead of just going for all cops and trying to like because I'm pretty sure all of you seen like I mean there were videos where some cops were being hostile, and I understand that some videos were understandable why people would get angry, but there were also other videos that people don't mention where cops were being attacked and wrongfully attacked with them just walking down the street or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand your point 100% because they should be held accountable because it's their job. They're defending the people. But at the same time, they're people as well. So who's defending them from other people attacking them?
Yeah, I agree. Because I feel like one of those major things that were happening when George Floyd was, has been killed, and it's the news footage and everywhere, especially on social media. But ever since that happened and people started protesting, and there has been people been attacking the police, attacking people's businesses and stores and things like that. And it's becoming like a major problem about how we see the police in general. And it kind of gave like a skew view of what we think about the police. You see one police doing something wrong, it ruins their reputation almost immediately. Just seeing how police are just being attacked by the people they supposed to protect. And I find it very wrong just to think that way. It's just that police, our main job is to just protect and serve. And yeah, we get people that may not do their jobs good. It's just that police are people, so seeing them as such is not wrong. I feel like I have a major problem when people just throw bottles at the police, throw
You just got to my point too,
Molotov,
because
yeah.
yeah,
like
just Molotov
you just
cocktails
got
or
to my
something.
point because
Yeah.
like you really just got to my point. You know, when people get pulled over by the police, then they have this outburst saying, "Why you pulled me over?" This and that. What you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to obey what the police tell you to do. Okay.
Okay, there I have to stop you because some of them,
If
both
they
angles.
right or wrong, even if they right or wrong, like obey anyway, because your life is more important than you just going off on the
Well,
police, even if they're right or wrong.
yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
I agree with that. But I'm saying like I've experienced both. That's why I'm saying I'm in both angles here because I've seen both happen. So for me, I've seen it happen to my personal family where they were pulled over for no legitimate reason and no actual credibility to pull someone over until they were able to film themselves and ask for the person's badge number and things like that. Then they started pulling away and started behaving more like an actual cop should. So that's why it depends on the situation to where people all always try to, and this happens on both sides where they try to see the bad perspective in both angles where like where you get a video of a cop beating someone up or like there'll be some videos where they'll purposely only record the ending of the fight so that they could look good and they would not record what happened in the beginning to escalate that fight. And that's another thing that goes into like the deeper issue of like what social media does sometimes. Even though it has some good to it, it also brings some negative issues into play of where people get only the bad actions only to where it impacts what their situation is, not what happened in the beginning to escalate that.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you guys are saying. I want to point out something that Ryan said in the chat. He said, we shouldn't have to think if we make one wrong move, our lives are over. And I definitely agree. We shouldn't like see a police officer and be scared and feel threatened. And if we do one thing wrong, it's a possibility that I'll be shot or I'll be killed or I'll die. I feel like that's wrong.
I 100% agree with that. But think about it like this: if say out of like the one person they pull over, they do exactly like they got to be cautious sometimes because they don't know if the person they pulled over has weapons. I mean, obviously, majority of the time it's not the case, but there are some cases where it has happened where there are weapons in the car and the police officer unfortunately either passed away or was severely injured thanks to that one person that affected him for the rest of his life. I know that some police officers don't walk after certain situations or end up changing their whole lives just because of that one stop or however they put it. That's how I see it.
That's very true, but they're trained to handle those situations properly. I understand in the moment, like you're scared and stuff like that. But as a police officer choosing that job, you have to learn how to put your feelings aside and use those trainings so that if that does happen, it can go the right way. I know things happen, but at least they have the training to handle them correctly so that it doesn't go that far.
Oh yeah, I agree with the fact that they need. I want to be like one of those people where I feel like there has to be like a whole recheck of like the system in general for police and how they do their applicationing in order to get more hiring and things like that. Because from the other angle, from where you're talking about, there has been cops where they've been sworn in or just have the job themselves, even though there's been either clearly many complaints from other people on the outside and other issues. And there's also been like people talk about how some officers have like they don't have like their mental checkups like they're supposed to where they have to talk to a counselor to make sure they're perfectly fit for duty and are able to perform well and like how you said stay calm in those situations when it's necessary to stay calm because they're the voice of reason in that situation. So I understand where you're coming from.
I want to add on something that Ryan said that they should stop putting police in neighborhoods that they don't know because if you put a police officer in a neighborhood that they don't know, obviously, if you put them like let's say in the south side or a neighborhood that's like completely dangerous, they're gonna feel threatened there. So why put them there? Put them in a neighborhood where they could handle things and just put separate cops that live in that district where they know completely put them there and put other cops in their different districts where they feel safe as well.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's one point I can agree on.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
too.
Because then the
Yeah.
people who live there will actually trust those cops because they know the cops are from
Yeah.
there and
Yeah.
the cops know how to handle situations.
And
Yeah.
not only that, that's where I also think like when people are trying to like defund the police, I think that they should actually be giving them more funding
Yes.
because like not in every district because there's some districts where they already have plenty of funding, but there's neighborhoods like how you said the south side where it's very dangerous, but the police don't have the funding or the manpower to handle it because there's not enough money in their budget or just in general they don't have the equipment to do their routine job or keep the community safe because they know the community and it's well to know your community because they know what goes on in there, but they also need to be like how you said they know the area, they know who's who, and they know who to be kind of more protective of.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like right now, it's just like as far as people just want to say defund the police, to just or even abolish, knowing that that's a very poor decision. I don't think people realize that. Some people do and some people don't, but saying defund the police is just a poor idea, knowing what potential we can just do with the funding. We can even teach police how to do more de-escalation situations
Yeah.
as far as just like
Better training.
finding a way not to just pull the trigger in case we're dealing with someone who has mental illness or has some type of disability. And just things like that. I'm thinking, let's be reasonable for 1 second. I know people are angry, but we shouldn't just say, get rid of our police officers.
Especially
Just-
since in some situations where people say that, oh, but the main situation where I'm thinking of is who's gonna get weapons faster, the criminal or the cop? The criminals are most likely going to be able to smuggle in their weapons that they need or have better weapons than the obvious officer would because they have the money to buy it and just sneak it into the country. Unlike the police, where they have to follow again strict guidelines, which I agree with because it's a part of the law. But at the same time, if you take away their funding, they won't have the same support or protection they do, like from their vests or just for natural precautions.
I don't know. My problem is with the like government or just like the politicians that are agreeing with this type of thing just to satisfy the people. Even though I'm just thinking, why not just find a way to just help the police
And
get
help
better
the people.
training,
Yeah.
and then we can have a better relationship with the people, especially colored people, knowing they feel
Exactly.
police are just a threat to them.
When I heard about this situation about George Floyd, I saw it on Facebook. It wasn't like an article. After that, I saw the video when the lady was recording the on her phone when there's like the police killed George Floyd. After that, they show on the news what I saw. They showed the whole thing. Then after that, when the police choke on George Floyd because probably the police think that he's selling drugs or anything like that
He
because
had counterfeit money, a $20 bill counterfeit money. And and he was doing other things he shouldn't have been doing. And then a woman called in the police to arrest him.
yeah,
In that situation, the way it was handled, it was wrong.
Yes,
And
I agree.
I agree.
for my thoughts of the police, I have a question for the police. If this is how they train them, like become a police, if someone wants to be a police one day in the future, going to college or going to a police school, something like that, like to train them how to be a police, how to protect someone.
I 100% agree, Elvis.
Yeah, because it is how the police show them how to kill people. To become a police is to help people who are in danger, like call 911 for an emergency, not like killing people, choking them. This is not how you become a police. You become is to protect, be patient, and respect to other people, race or anything like that. So that's my thought for me. Is how they teach them how to become a police? Is that how they taught him?
Completely agree with Elvis. So I think we should move on to our next question. And the next question was, did anyone attend the protest? And if you did, what was your experience like?
I did not attend any of the protests when it was happening, but here's my opinion. When it was happening, I understand throughout the entire situation. It was like the exact situation when, like, I think Trayvon Martin in like Missouri, and how people were protesting. But here's the thing: I feel like a part of protesting, there are people who are making it a problem by having the rioters and the looters. Another thing I feel like there's an issue is just far as just teaching our children. I don't know when, but I saw a video of like parents bringing their kids to like the protests, even though there were a lot of looters and
You're right.
riots. I think it was wrong for parents to just bring their kids like it's like a summer festival. I understand it's just far as just to teach kids about social justice or social change, but for me, I thought it was wrong for to bring their kids into like political situations. I fully support like protests as long as it's peaceful. Anything other than that, it just I feel like I have a major problem. Yeah, it just I think it's just one of those situations where I felt like when I saw everything happen on TV, I think they were in the Loop area. Some of them were like can't remember where they were in Roosevelt in Chicago. It's just that it was like everywhere on every channel when the protest was happening. So things like that, I was in full support when it was peaceful. But when it's like late at night where people are just destroying property, looting, some people were just being rude to the police or things like that. I feel like the whole Black Lives Matter movement has been tainted by people who are ruining its reputation of being like a peaceful protest.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned how they brought their kids into political situations because if you really think about it, there's been a lot of families where I mean, I completely disagree of how they implemented this method, but the families themselves influence on what the kids should believe in when we're supposed to let the kids make their own decisions in life before they already get influenced by their parents and everyone else for their political beliefs. So what I mean by this is because I'm pretty sure some of you have seen like where there's some little kids on the internet where there'll be like right away against the police or like they'll be automatically saying get these Mexicans and blacks out of my country, and they'll be like 5 or 6 years old, and you know this isn't coming from the kids because they're still kids. They don't even know what they're saying. I mean, this goes back to where how they're being raised at home and like how their parents themselves influence the kids' beliefs in like the politics to begin with and people themselves.
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Racism is taught.
Yeah, I agree
Racism
too.
and sexism is taught. You're not just born a racist. That's something you're taught.
Yep, it comes from home.
I agree with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I just feel really bothered where they have kids holding signs where they just like are against the police or saying something like police slur. And it just drives me insane that these parents are just teaching kids a very skewed perception like about the police. And it just something about it just doesn't feel right where we teaching kids to somewhat fear the police. I don't remember when it was, but I think I was watching ABC News with my parents, and there was like there's one video where like a black young little girl was saying she's scared of the police when a police officer had to tell her, it's okay, you don't have to be afraid of me. It's just like something like that. It's just like I feel, oh my God.
Okay, so I wanted to bring up the point that, yeah, I totally agree with you guys when you guys said that they shouldn't bring kids to the protest. Like, I definitely agree with that. If you want to teach them something, well, find a safe way to teach them, like teach them at home and explain to them what's going on in the simplest way. So I definitely agree with that.
I would say Black Lives Matter, so we have to protect people.
Yeah.
Well, I think all lives matter. Honestly, this thing about Black Lives Matter is just like it's just a division type of way of saying, "Ooh, only Black Lives Matter."
Can I stop you there?
Yeah, wait.
Okay. I want to talk about that. You can't say all lives matter until Black Lives Matter because Black people have been oppressed for years.
I mean, honestly, I do agree
And
that
it
we
hasn't
have been oppressed.
stopped.
I
Wait,
agree.
wait.
Okay, let's say your house is burning down. Okay, so we're gonna attend all the other houses before we attend yours because all houses matter, right? Like, no, you have to attend the houses burning down, which is what we're doing. We want to get justice and want to get equality for Black lives, which is what we need. So until Black Lives Matter, all lives are going to matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely agree with Clara. I feel like Black lives are being oppressed, and Black Lives Matter isn't saying that all lives don't matter. It's not Black Lives Matter more, it's Black Lives Matter too. Black Lives Matter also.
Yes.
Okay. I gotta say this. I'm pretty much very, very split on the whole All Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter saying. Because I can understand why people are saying All Lives Matter just as much I'm understanding why people are saying Black Lives Matter. At first, when I listen to All Lives Matter, it doesn't seem like a bad thing to say. It just some people are taking issues when they're saying it. And things like that, I just feel like I'm having a little bit of problem where some people in the Black Lives Matter movement are just being somewhat rude to people who have a different opinion about this. Whether they're conservatives, whether they're not, they just are for the Black Lives Movement or against it. It just things like that. I just feel like I have a bit itsy bitsy problem. But I understand why people are saying Black Lives Matter. It took me a while because a lot of times where you listen to the news or listen to somebody talking about it, you're going to get different opinions. It took someone I know that just sort of explained it a little bit better than any politician to understand. And just things like that is very mind opening. And just things that I hope to just understand people's opinions, and I'm hoping people will respect it if they don't fully agree with saying Black Lives Matter. To me, just love matters or something. Having open conversations matters. So things like that, I'm just sort of in the middle.
I understand where Leah's coming from because I'm in the same position. I see both angles.
I want to help you guys like understand the movement. Okay, I support the Black Lives Matter. We know that all lives matter, and people don't support the Black Lives Matter movement because they think all lives matter, which they do. But the point of Black Lives Matter is we know all lives matter. We just need your help supporting the Black lives instead of treating Blacks like they don't matter, like they're nothing. So all lives matter, including Blacks. Black lives matter too, as well as others. That's the movement.
I 100% agree that Black Lives Matter, and we're not taking anything away from Black Lives Matter or all lives matter. It's just that from both sides, people in general, from both sides of each argument, try to, even though everyone has a different opinion, they try to attack their opinion without just listening to them at first, because regardless, everyone's going to have a different opinion. It's life. No one's going to be exactly the same. No one's going to have exactly the same likes and dislikes. Everyone's going to be different. We're all different people. We all support different things. But my point in case is that in general, I understand where you're coming from, but I feel like each side has to like reevaluate what they want to express, because I understand that the majority of them don't stand where like the few people that are in their community that give them a bad reputation. But at the same time, you got to like still be able to listen to all opinions, not just close off your mind to your singular opinion.
I don't know, but I feel like some people are very hypocritical. So, say for instance, somebody put a hashtag saying "White Lives Matter," people will gonna lose their minds just for somebody for saying that. When it's Black Lives Matter, it's just everybody's all support for it. But just things like that, I just feel like something is a problem when it comes to just saying one saying over another saying. All lives matter versus Black Lives Matter. Just I get why people are saying Black Lives Matter, but the All Lives Matter is something people want to just be sort of like try to unite people, not to bring them down, but people on the Black
Thank
Lives
you.
Matters are just saying,
Thank you, Aaliyah.
hey, yeah, just say, oh, these
I
people
was
are
trying
so
to,
racist.
and then some people disagreeing at that point.
I'm just saying, just it's something about it just feels like, are you being a little bit hypocritical where you're just saying, oh, we can't say all lives matter, but we can always say Black Lives Matter because that's who we are, but you can't
Okay,
invite
I
those people in.
I see where you're coming from, but they're also just trying to bring awareness to themselves because, like they said, they are being suppressed and being taken differently in a different point of view. Because when you see someone that is not exactly African American but white, they're going to be perceived as something different rather than someone who is African American going down the street to a convenience store or just walking in general. I understand where you're coming from for both perspectives. That people are being hypocritical, but at the same time, it goes back to being able to allow both perspectives to be heard. Because even though I agree all lives matter, they're just trying to bring awareness to like Black lives because I don't want to say I know the full story, but they've been oppressed for a while and there's been a lot of backstory to it, which I'm not saying that there hasn't been other races that have been oppressed, but this is just what Black Lives Matter stands for them. And I'm not either for all lives matter or Black Lives Matter because they all have their issues where they have to sort them out themselves. That's why I don't stand for either or. I'm just in the middle because
Yeah, I feel the same way.
each one has their issues, regardless of what their label is. They have issues that they need to solve within
True.
themselves.
True. I mean, both sides do have like flaws.
All right, I think we should move on to our next question, which would
Yeah.
sort of have to do with the same thing. How did you guys feel about other cities, states, and countries joining into these protests as well?
Well, if it was peaceful, I was all for it. I was hoping for more the type of change that Dr. King will like. Type of things where we are united despite our different skin color, our different religions, our different opinions. I'm just hoping for more unity in this world, but things like that are very more divisive than ever right now, especially whether or not you vote for a certain person, whether or not you're for the idea of all lives matter, Black Lives Matter, whether or not you have the more leftist opinion versus more conservative opinions. So things like that, I just feel like I'm hoping more states, whether they're Democrat or Republican, to just show more advocacy of just promoting peace and promoting social change where everybody can agree upon. Whether or not you're just for the left, for the right, especially like for people in the middle. Some people don't even like want to vote for Trump, want to vote for Biden. Where are those people standing?
Yeah, so I do want to say about it since all the countries and states now heard about George Floyd's death. So for a reason, one, I saw Puerto Rico, like Puerto Ricans are from. They're supporting for Black Lives Matter. Also, Europe is supporting Black Lives Matter, and I think now it's getting like out of chaos about George Floyd's death. Now everyone around the world is supporting and marching back for George Floyd's death.
Honestly, my opinion on the matter of like how people were handling the protests and everything, I agree with the fact that they came together. I'm happy about that because that's what America stands for, coming together
Yeah, that's true.
against things that are big issues. But the way that the protest ended up escalating, instead of being a peaceful protest, how it should be, where there's no violence and you're just peacefully fighting it without destroying any properties. I don't know if any of you have ever seen where like people have been burning the American flag. And to me, I don't see the point in burning a flag like that because okay, yes, it's attacking the government and things like that, but you got to think about it like this. There's people who serve the country who are good Americans who actually like they're not even a part of this whole like damaging anything or anything like that, but the fact that you're burning the flag and so many people who have fought and died for like this country themselves, the families, how they feel about the country that their loved ones died for, just burning the flag just because you want to make a popular video. Or I don't even think it was about awareness when you burn the flag, because this is your country too. It's not like you're in someone else's country. This is your country. You're kind of just disrespecting the people that passed away and the flag symbol itself for freedom and equality. I understand
Yeah.
that they did it for like anger reasons, but that wasn't the way to go. That was not the way to go with that.
An interesting conversation, which we need to continue talking about more. So stay tuned for our next episode, and thank you for listening to Power Your Story.
Power Your Story podcast is produced by students at After School Matters with production support from the Creative and Poster Studios.
Find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Power Your Story Podcast.
Got a question or suggestion for our show? Contact us at poweryourstorypodcast.com. Thank you for listening and have a great day.